Welcome to another episode of the STR Sisterhood. I'm your host, Stacey St. And as always, I am absolutely delighted to spend a few minutes with you today. Now, before we jump into this episode, I'm going to share a quote with you that I recently read that resonated with me. And it says, "And the trouble is, if you don't risk anything, you risk even more." Think about those words. So wise. And those come to us from American author Erica Jong. Now, in this episode, we are sitting down with Annchen Knodt and talking all about her journey in the world of short-term rentals, from partnering with her parents to dealing with potentially a spouse that wasn't so excited about being in short-term rentals, to navigating choppy waters and coming out with even greater joy on the other side. So without further ado, let's jump into my conversation with Annchen. So today we are joined by someone near and dear to my heart, Miss Annchen Knodt. Annchen, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks so much for having me, Stacey. I'm super excited to connect with you today and chat short-term rentals. And yeah, I love everything that you do. And so I'm happy to be a part of your podcast now too.
Oh my goodness. Well, this is so fun. And for those of you who don't know Annchen, she has been in the STR space for several years, while also working alongside a very busy W-2. So Annchen, let's just have you start by sharing a little bit with our audience about who you are and what you do outside of the short-term rental space.
Yeah, so my background is in math and science. I like to just tell people I'm a real big nerd. I currently work in neuroscience research at Duke, so that keeps me pretty busy and always just super excited to learn new things about the brain every day. But I guess now it's going on 7 years ago that I learned about how people were building wealth and working towards financial independence through investing in real estate. And that started to really resonate with me because I guess it's I really enjoy my career. I'm not one of those people that hates their job and really wants to get out of it. I love it and it's really interesting, but just being able to build a life where I have the freedom to pursue any of my heart's desires kind of resonated with me more than really any other kind of pursuits that I had been exposed to along the way. So I just kind of went all in. I said, let's do this. And I have so many hobbies that I'm interested in that I love to spend more time on. And then just kind of being able to do more work with nonprofits and that sort of thing. So I thought, hey, if I can build financial independence, then at least I have the option to kind of pursue other paths really easily. And I certainly wish that, kind of everyone could have that. Yeah. But so I started out doing long-term rentals, and it was really strange along the way, kind of at the exact same time, but completely independently. My parents got interested in investing in real estate. And so then my dad and I read Rich Dad Poor Dad at the same time somehow. But we didn't know it. And then, we came together and we said, oh, we both want to do this. Why don't we partner? We share so many of the same values. And so that's what we ended up doing. We said, what could go wrong? So many partnerships start. But, of course we did our best to kind of anticipate any issues that we could beforehand, come up with a whole partnership agreement. And so then we were kind of off to the races. We bought 3 long-term rentals. And then separately, I kind of got one of my own. And then it was in 2022, so about 3 years ago, that we were always chasing cash flow. It was about achieving that cash flow and working towards having the cash flow to support financial independence. And it was increasingly difficult to find cash flow in long-term rentals. And I had always thought that short-term rentals seemed really fun. So I wanted to get into short-term rentals. And from what I had learned with doing long-term rental investing, I knew right away that I needed to get into some sort of mentorship or community or coaching program, because I knew short-term rentals were also far more complex than long-term rentals. And I needed help learning, especially if I wanted to go quickly and to really build up a portfolio to, again, chase that financial independence goal. And so that's how I found you. So much of kind of the way you do things really resonated with me. And I thought, does this lady have a coaching program? And so then I Googled it. And that was around the same time that you were just kind of starting yours. It was in a beta version. So yeah, I jumped in and I'm so glad that I did.
Oh my gosh. Well, isn't it so interesting how sometimes you, as someone who started that beta program several years ago, you never know who you have the ability to impact. But it has been so special to be a part of your journey and to watch you grow and evolve and help you through challenges and watch you celebrate successes. And I think that's part of the power of having people in your corner, right? To be able to go through the tough times as well as celebrate the wins together too. And I know we're going to talk more about that. What I want to do, I want to talk with you about first partnering with your parents, because I find that so often folks are afraid of partnerships, number one. And number two, they're afraid of partnerships ruining relationships. And as you know, one of the things that I teach inside the accelerator, especially around partnerships, is to make sure that you've got all of your ducks laid out in a row, where you've got, your exit strategy all laid out. You've got your breakup plans all laid out. You've got roles and responsibilities clearly defined. You have everything properly documented to protect each party. Talk to me about when you decided to partner with your parents. Were either of you nervous about things, and how did you navigate that nervousness?
Um, yeah, those are all very good points you bring up. And I feel like you get people on both extremes, that people are who are afraid and people who aren't afraid enough and just jump in and don't take care of all of those things.
Mhm.
We weren't particularly nervous. I think some of it might have been naivety, starting out honestly, but also just that, for one, we know each other so well. We know our values. We know we're aligned in most every sense, and that we both had a certain degree of flexibility, especially my parents. So they're kind of set. They're retired. They were, especially for my dad, wanting to do investing as a retirement activity. It wasn't really super high stakes for him. And so, they could go as long as I wanted to or not. So in that sense, it kind of let me drive the pace. And they were just happy to help me build what I want, and to be able to do it together. And to be honest, it's been a fun activity to do together. But yeah, so for that reason, we knew that we had the flexibility to make everyone happy. And in the end, it's kind of not the end, not that things are done yet, but we're actually selling our first property that we're going to sell. It's the first one that we'll sell. We're selling it this week. And it was the sort of thing that maybe 5 years ago, I would have thought that I wouldn't want to be selling at this point. But we ended up being in complete agreement about, yes, it's a great time to sell. We've got so much equity gain from the COVID run-up. We can lever that equity gain into passive investing. And now we're making more money and we're not doing anything. And I think that's a result, again, of us having similar values and similar goals. Like, we're both working towards supporting financial independence while still living a balanced life and getting to enjoy everything else about life, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. And this too. I mean, I firmly believe that life is way too short not to enjoy what you're doing, right? And so I love that you've not only embraced that, but also your parents have embraced that, or are embracing that as well. I want to ask you about selling. So, if you don't mind me asking, what was the decision point and how did you have the conversation? Did you bring it to your parents? Did they bring it to you? How did you have the initial discussion of, hey, I want to sell this property? Because oftentimes when you're in a partnership situation, it might feel a little dicey if one party wants to sell because you don't know what the other party wants to do. Talk to us about how that played out.
Yeah, it's certainly something. I think it could have easily played out that way, and I'm so grateful that it didn't. This particular property, it's one of our long terms. We have 3 long terms together. This one is in Texas, which is close to them. And so we self-manage all of our properties. We kind of got tired of hiring a property manager to achieve the situation where the tenant called them and then they call us. It's kind of been our experience. And it's been fine. And again, it's been something for them to do. But since that one is close to where they live in Texas, they ended up going over there fairly often. They wouldn't have had to, but just to kind of take care of things. And they kind of got tired of doing that. And incidentally, they kept saying, why don't we 1031 into a property in North Carolina that's close to you and you can take care of it? And I thought, well, maybe not. But incidentally, it was our property with the most equity and the lowest return on equity for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
So our equity was getting very lazy in this property. And that, of course, that was what I was the most concerned about. And I did a whole bunch of math, which won't surprise you at all, spreadsheets and everything, where I kind of decided that even after capital gains taxes, we talked about 1031ing, and then we just decided that it would be too complicated. And basically, I determined that even after capital gains taxes, if we lever the, what we get from the sale into passive lending, we're going to be making more money. And then we don't have to do anything. And I said, sold. So that's kind of how it worked out. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. I also want to ask you about any potential challenges that have come up because, through partnerships, there aren't always situations where it's 100% rainbows and sunshine, right? Talk to me about a situation where you may not have agreed with your parents or vice versa, and how to handle a particular situation and how you navigated that discussion.
There's one that comes to mind real quickly, and that's one that would have been very difficult to anticipate. But so then the fourth rental that we bought together is a short-term rental, and that's in the mountains of North Carolina. And as everyone knows, the mountains of North Carolina got some good drama last year with Hurricane Helene. And it turned out that we kind of disagreed on how to deal with that situation. So we ended up with we had actually had a long-term guest book, a midterm guest for 4 months or so. And then with the hurricane, they basically just had to leave. There was no power to the area for a week, and it was not really habitable. But then pretty quickly, the specific area that our cabin is located in recovered. But as there are so many areas that were far less fortunate.
Yeah.
And so, for example, there were a lot of people from Asheville that they didn't have water for a good month or so, and they needed a place to go. And so we kind of disagreed on, do we offer maybe what we've got at a discounted rate to help these people versus like really take more of a business perspective and continue to try to be profitable. And so that was a big challenge that, we couldn't have anticipated. And I feel like personally, that's been our biggest disagreement to date. But we just, we kind of kept working through it. And, the attitude has always been, we're in this together. And it's, even though we have disagreements, I also, and I hope they do too, at least, I think sometimes I bug them with my little quirks, but I appreciate that we all have complementary skills. And it's been kind of interesting also how much you learn about yourself when you work with your parents, because that's where I get that from. That's where I get that from, and that sort of thing. And you kind of see more of that. But so kind of having that and appreciating that and focusing on that we're still family, and we do ultimately want the same things and we're in this together. It helps us get through all of those.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And do you mind me asking about the structure of the partnership? So there's 3 people, correct? Is that correct?
Yes.
And is it you each own a third, or is it one party has 51%? Okay, talk to us about
the third, which poses a challenge to me at times because, they'll just get together and outvote me. There was only really one major thing where they did that, and kind of what I said was like, we're going to put a pin in this, and next time, we're going to go my way. Like you got your way here, and next time it's mine, and that's kind of worked out. And yeah, I don't think there's been any really lasting resentment at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, talk to me a little bit about, obviously partnering with your parents. You might have discussions that are real estate focused or, focused on day-to-day operations. I want to take it a step further and say, okay, what about family get-togethers? I will tell you, I am working with both of my sons now. And so
Oh, it's so
I
fun.
am, I am the parent in the relationship. Now it's not a real estate investment or a partnership in that regard. I'm more of like their employer or their boss, right? But there are certainly nuances that each party has to get used to. One of the things that I always look to do is create separation in between, okay, we are having business focused time versus we're having dinner together as a family or we're celebrating a birthday as a family. Have you found that disconnecting or decoupling the work versus family has been easy for you or difficult? And what does that look like?
I guess it hasn't really been much of a problem for us because for the most part, I think we kind of just enjoy talking business.
Mhm.
And so it's not like a terrible burden. And it's not
Mhm.
for us, it hasn't been super intense work. So we're able to usually when we talk, it's like we have something that we need to talk about. We
Mhm.
need to talk through business. And so we'll do that and then we'll move on to other things. Um so yeah, we haven't really worked super hard. It gets we've even kind of brought other members of the family in. I've had cousins come and stay at our cabin, and that's been kind of fun too. My sister is kind of the person of our immediate family that's not really involved in it, so try to be mindful of that when she's around. Of course,
Mhm.
she did start taking an interest. I don't think I told you this, but kind of like a sidebar. A couple weeks ago, I discovered that one of the mattresses in the cabin was not the mattress I installed there. Yeah, you think you've seen it all. Sure, I
Right.
still haven't. But anyway, so my sister took a keen interest in the mattress caper, and she said, I want your login to your video camera, and I'm going to go back through and I'm going to figure out what happened." So that's been like the one thing that we've been able to reel her in. But so I guess that's kind of an example of how a lot of it's just been fun for us.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
love that. And your sister's going to be the new security agent. to-
There you go. We maybe need to discuss compensation
There
before
you go. There you go. All right. I want to turn to another side of your family, if you don't mind me asking, because I know that there have also been situations that you and I have had discussions about that, you know, may pose unique individual challenges where your spouse, although you're investing with your parents, your spouse didn't really have an interest in this whole real estate investing journey you've been on. Talk to us a little bit about that and how that has shaped conversations at home that do or don't happen. What does that look like?
Yeah. So, in all honesty, it's truly been a challenge. And, not to say that he's not a supportive spouse, but just having him completely uninterested in talking about it. I guess I see so many other people who, they're a power couple, and I'm just jealous of how they get to brainstorm together. And, I sort of have that with my parents, but again, more or less, I've been kind of driving things with them, and they're kind of less excited about really brainstorming things on a high level as I am. And they, they haven't gone out and sought all the education like from you and other groups as I have. And so I often feel quite alone in that. And then kind of the other piece of that puzzle is that my husband tends to generally be a skeptic. And similarly, I so appreciate how we're complementary. A lot of times I'm just a total optimist and I think, we can do anything, but sometimes I need a dose of reality. So it's wonderful to get that from him. But especially like kind of jumping into SDRs and it's really complicated and you face a lot of challenges, and having him kind of, his general attitude about the whole thing was, you're doing so much work. I don't really know if it's worth all this work that you're putting it into. And I would keep saying things like, well, I hear all these people on the podcasts who end up, doing so well and they achieve great things. And then he'll come back and say, well, there's probably as many or more people who didn't, and they didn't get on the podcast. It's something in science, we talk about survivor bias, and, just kind of always just gnawing away at my mindset, basically. And so that, and I know it's something that you really teach a lot, how important having a really positive mindset and confidence, in your ability to achieve your goals, how important that is to success. And so it was really holding me back in so many ways. And that was another reason why finding a community was really important to me. And it's kind of another reason, kind of going back to the hearing all the success stories on the podcast. It's kind of one reason why, I wanted to get on a podcast and talk about how, like I've had struggles, but I've still ended up in a place where I'm happy with everything I've went through. And I do feel like it was worth it. And I felt like I got so much along the way, just so that other people who might be feeling the way I felt at those times know that they're not alone. There's nothing that's specifically, wrong with them. It's just, it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of taking the time to find what works for you and to find the people who can help you.
Hey girl, if you've ever thought about taking back control from Airbnb, you're not alone. And Lodgify is the tool to do it. Did you know that with Lodgify, you can create your own stunning direct booking website, manage everything from guest communication to payments all in one place, and finally say goodbye to the high OTA fees? Now, here's the best part. STR Sisterhood listeners, you get 20% off all yearly plans, plus free personalized onboarding that's worth over $3,000. Just use code STRSH20 and start building your business your way. I want to ask you about, our accelerator family, which I know, again, you joined right when I started it. And I know it has evolved so much throughout the last 3 years. But one of the things that, I always found so rewarding is to touch base with our accountability pod leaders. So you were in an accountability pod for many years. And every month, I am actually meeting with our accountability pod leaders to actually understand at a very granular level, how is each individual doing, right? And so, that is a way that I can keep my finger on the pulse as my community continues to grow. Hey, these are folks who might need an extra bit of support this month, or these are folks who are killing it and we need to celebrate them, or these people might need a personal phone call. Talk to me about your experience with an accountability pod, which is different than mine. Talk to me about your experience with an accountability pod and what those folks meant for you.
Oh man, yeah. I know some people who are in your program who weren't in a pod, and I was just like, get in a pod. It's just amazing and transformative. And yeah, I don't think that you had implemented the pods initially when I had originally joined. And then it was just one of those many things that kind of blew me away, how you just kind of kept adding value to the program. And that one, and then especially I have been in other accountability groups, and now this is just kind of like sounding like I'm trying to sell you, which I'm not. I'm appreciating so much what you have done. It's not like you slipped me a 20 before we started this.
Correct. But I might after, depending on what you're about to say. No,
all right.
I'm kidding.
But just the way that you organized it, like, really blew my mind. Also, just having the framework, like so many tend to just devolve into chatting sessions. But you said, no, we're going to have this spreadsheet. We're going to have specific goals. And we're gonna talk together about how we can break down our specific annual goals into our 6-month goals, into our quarterly goals, and then we're gonna talk to each other about how each week, whether what we're doing is in alignment with that, and then knowing that you're in the background checking in and actually intervening when there were issues. It's such a powerful tool and a powerful strategy. I always struggled with setting goals. We had lots of conversations around that. And it's still a bit of a struggle of mine, but yeah, I've learned from that as well. But I think if you really want to achieve something that's beyond your comfort zone, that's pushing the boundaries of what you've done in the past, like having that framework of people to check in with regularly, and then, just to encourage you, to knowing that I'm going to have to show up at the meeting and say, did I do this or didn't I? It really adds an extra level of, I better get this done. I felt that, I
Yeah.
felt that every week, and
I,
I really appreciated it. Yeah.
oh, well, I'm so happy to hear that, because at the end of the day, you know, the accountability pods are created to be a tool and a resource for folks. And what's super rewarding for me is to actually see that come to fruition. Actually, so many people will tell me one of their most favorite parts about our accelerator program are the accountability pods, right? And the special bonds that are created there. It really is like a family, so it's amazing. Amazing.
And I think especially with short-term rentals, like things come up all the time. You need a little group of people that you can vent to. You can say, "Oh gosh, I don't know what happened to the mattress in my cabin," so someone laugh with me, And so having that connection with all of those people has been so valuable. Yeah.
I mean, there are moments for everyone, right? Where sometimes you're like, I'm going to laugh or I'm going to cry.
Yeah.
Right?
Probably both. Yeah.
Sometimes we do both, right?
Yeah.
But having the people there to share it with is so helpful, and I know helpful for me too, right? I'm curious, Annchen, about where you are today, since you're not focused on growing a massive portfolio. What does success look like for you in this season of life? Because I know you've also made some shifts in addition to investing in your properties. You're doing additional things. Talk to us about that.
Yeah. So I guess as I started out saying, my original goal has always been to achieve financial independence. And initially, the kind of the route to that I had the most awareness of was real estate investing. And so, I've worked on that, and it's done well for me. The short-term rentals are doing pretty well for me. But I recently kind of learned more. One of the things that my husband kept asking me about was, how do you know that like investing in real estate is better than stock investing? And then I said, I guess I don't really know all that well, because he's not interested in real estate investing, but he's really focused on his career, and that brings in a high salary. And so basically kind of through asking those questions and finding like groups of people that talked about real estate and stocks kind of together and separately a lot, I learned more how most people kind of plan for retirement based on, say, like a stock portfolio in their 401k. And I learned how to do the math around that. And then it kind of helped me realize that if I include what I've got in my 401k and I do the math, like I'm kind of almost to financial independence. I had initially thought that I would need 4 or 5 more short-term rentals to hit financial independence. But kind of through learning more about that, I realized, hey, I'm almost already there. And then that kind of coupled with, like this year, for example, my mother-in-law has been fighting ovarian cancer, and she's doing really well, and we're extremely grateful for that. But that really helps to put things into perspective about how maybe I don't need to spend as much time grinding. And, you certainly, you saw me during all my grinding years, how, I was willing to do everything chasing this dream. I spent all my free time on how can I get the next investment and how can I get to financial freedom? And now kind of realizing that I'm pretty close and that I can use maybe more passive. The thing I'm most excited about right now is private lending. There's a hard money lender in my area that I know well, that really makes it easy to do private lending through him. And it's a really good return. And so I'm kind of realizing that I can just cross the finish line doing that.
Right.
And so to me now, success is more living my best life, I guess. And I'm so excited. And to be honest, it's only through the community of women investors that I've really come to learn about these opportunities. And just to kind of reiterate how just all the relationships that I've made with other women investors in your program and then elsewhere have been so enriching to my life. And, you don't know what you don't know a lot of times. And a lot of times it takes someone else to kind of point that out to you. And it was someone else in one of those groups who pointed that out to me and and that's enabled me to relax a little bit and, enjoy life more, spend time with my mother-in-law, help her when she's recovering from surgery, get more into the nonprofits that I work with, and just being grateful every day about what I've learned and where I've gotten through all of that.
Amazing. Amazing. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, right? Whether it is, hey, I'm not going to expand my short-term rental portfolio right now. I'm not going to expand my long-term rental portfolio right now. I'm going to focus on this aspect. Number one, having a diversified investment portfolio is a great thing. It's a great thing. Number two, it also helps to potentially bridge the gap if there are challenges between one spouse not really into the short-term rental thing and one spouse is. This can be a way to bridge that gap where it is, by investing more passively for you, it helps perhaps smooth things out at home too, right? And so I'm totally
it definitely has. I didn't tell you that, but it most definitely has. He's incredibly on board with that. And so, yeah, exactly. That's probably one of the reasons why I've sort of headed that direction. And also kind of thinking back when I had originally written my real estate investing goals down, it included I'm going to have a short-term rental in the mountains and at the beach. And now I do. And so, yeah. And it's loads of fun. So
yeah. I love that. I love that for you. And I think too, it's exciting what at the end of the day, living your best life is knowing what you want, right? And so often folks are chasing kind of this dream life, but they don't have clarity about what that dream life really consists of. And so I just want to say kudos to you for being laser focused and knowing what you want, knowing what you're after, always looking to improve and pivot because it's not a linear path always. Actually, most of the time, it's not a linear path, And so having the willingness to try different things, to fail forward, to make pivots when it's needed, I think is so incredibly important. And not always easy for folks. Not always easy.
Oh, not at all. I mean, in the moment, I would express my frustration with constantly pivoting as I pivot so much, I'm just getting dizzy. and I really felt that, and I felt it personally. But that was, again, where having the community really came into play, where, people would remind me, I've had to do this before. We're all having to do it now. Look what the market's been through in just the past few years. So many things that no one could have anticipated. And, you have to adapt to succeed. And so I guess that's been part of it. And there's just so much to learn too. And so then, you have to make changes once you get more information a lot of the time.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to go back to the fact that you're doing all of this alongside working at Duke in neuroscience research. Okay. So hello, you've got a busy W-2. Talk to us a little bit about what your time looks like. How do you carve out time for your real estate or any other type of investing on the side of your W-2?
Well, when I was really spending a lot of time, on knocking out all those goals that my accountability buddies were holding me accountable for, I kind of learned that what worked best for me, similar to you, I'm kind of the most focused in the morning. And so I would spend 2 hours every day in the morning just working on investing related stuff. And just to kind of compartmentalize it like that. I don't like to rapidly shift focus all the time. And so just kind of having a block for that and then a block for work. I found that was what worked best for me. I know a lot of other ladies, it's once everyone else has gone to bed, that's when they really focus. But for me, it was the morning. And then I got to say, I mean, the other thing is that I don't have any kids. And so I think that makes things quite a bit easier. And it's also really great that my job is very flexible. So I get to pick my own hours. I can work remotely. And I don't know that I would have been able to kind of put as much effort into investing as I could have if it weren't for that. A bigger challenge is that, my job in science, it's a lot of, I need focus and concentration. It's like, thinking is a big part of my job. And then when you've got Airbnb messages coming in And that is a big challenge. And
Yeah.
so yeah, I'll do the trick where it's like I'm gonna have a 45 minutes of straight focus and, hopefully, there's not an emergency coming in, and then I'll go back and I'll check if anything needs tending to. And so that's kind of helped a little bit, but that has been quite a challenge.
Yeah. And it's funny, we were just talking about this not too long ago. You know, that and that alone could be a great reason to incorporate AI tools into your hosting, tech suite, whether it's Host Buddy or Bestie or Resi, or I mean, there's so many AI tools out there.
For sure. It's been fun to hear the stories from the ladies in the accountability groups, how they've had success with that. And so, yeah, it might be something that I work towards now. It's like I've kind of worked towards having more free time. And so it's less of a problem now than it was. But yeah, it's remarkable. And the AI tools, the way that they help me in my day job too, it's really exciting. Yeah.
That's so great. So great. Annchen, I want to ask you one other question. If someone is perhaps feeling alone and feeling like, okay, I'm into real estate investing, I'm into hosting, I like it, but I feel like I'm living on an island, what words of advice would you have for them?
Yeah, find a community for sure. And then first of all, I just want to say that, I feel you and I know that it's hard and you're not alone in that. It'll just help to find kind of the other people who are feeling the same way. And a good way to do that, there's so many online communities now, the Facebook groups, for example, but then, just having like a deeper relationship than what you would get on a Facebook group has been invaluable to me. And I hadn't mentioned yet, but I even, I felt so strongly about that I actually, I became a leader of a women's investing group here in the area. And so I've made friends that way, and it's been absolutely delightful. I've also led a short-term rental subgroup for the local, the RIA, which stands for Real Estate Investors and Associations. So pretty much wherever you are, most places are going to have some local interest groups like that. That could be a good place to look for people. But if not, look for a coaching program. Join a coaching program. It's always, I think, worth the investment. Talk to other people who are already in the program to get some feedback. But I think from them you can learn pretty quickly whether it's worth the investment.
Yeah, absolutely. And whether it's my program or someone else's, what's important is that you have the support, right? And it's important to find a community that's right for you.
Yeah, exactly. Look for what resonates with you. And so not only do you get the support that you need in your investing journey, but you learn so much more along the way. It's absolutely delightful.
It is so fun. So fun. All right. And I want to move to the lightning round. Okay. So I'm going to ask you to answer with the very first thing that comes to mind. First question is, where is your favorite place to vacation?
Right now, I would have to say that that's Hawaii. My sister lives there currently. And so it's been really great to have that on top of a flexible job to be able to spend quite a lot of time there. So I'll keep going quite frequently while she's there for sure.
I would love to adopt your sister as a sister and join her.
Yeah.
What island is she on?
She lives on Oahu.
Nice.
But last time I was there in June, we hopped over to the Big Island to see the volcano erupting, and it was amazing. It was truly amazing. Yeah. Love Hawaii.
I've never visited the Big Island. I've been 3 times and only have visited Oahu and Maui. So I would love to get to the Big Island and Kauai.
Kauai is gorgeous. I think if I had to pick a favorite, it might be Kauai currently.
Really?
But yeah, you got to get there.
Okay. I'm going to make it happen. All right. Next question. What's one place you've never been that you want to visit?
That has got to be Bermuda. Mainly just because I guess I fairly recently realized it's, just kind of off the coast, off the East Coast. I live in North Carolina on the East Coast, and it's just right there. I'm spending all this time going to Hawaii, which is really far away, and Bermuda's just kind of right there teasing me. And I haven't been. I'm so intrigued. I hear so many great things about it. So I keep kind of hitting at my husband, like, let's get over there.
Yeah,
shouldn't be too long, hopefully.
absolutely. I've heard it's gorgeous as well. I've never been either,
Mm,
but heard it's absolutely stunning. So you'll have to let me know what you think of it.
I will.
All right. Next question is, what's one thing you know now that you wished you knew when you were starting out in the world of either real estate investing or short-term rentals?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I guess for short-term rentals, I wish I knew maybe how much work was going to be involved and how it was going to be a challenge to my personality type, for one thing.
Mm.
But I think that I've grown so much through it. So I don't think that knowing that would have changed anything. But if that makes any sense, there were, I guess, some surprises and some frustrations that I hadn't really anticipated that were challenging.
And when you say based on your personality type, that's really interesting to hear you say. Do you know like either your Myers-Briggs or your disc profile, or what makes you say
Right.
personality type?
I guess I don't mean like as far as like scores on scales, but and I
Okay.
kind of had a hint at this, but I'm particularly sensitive. I don't really have a very thick skin, and so dealing with like guests and stuff. I'd heard people talked about it, and I thought, oh, I'll be fine, but it's hard. It stresses me out, and again, it's why having the group of people to share that with has been
Mhm.
so important,
Yeah.
in kind of getting through it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
People, I will say by and large, I believe people are great and wonderful. And the vast majority of our guests are phenomenal. And to your point, every once in a blue moon, you get someone that is like, whoa, well, why are you
exactly.
talking to me like that?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I completely agree. Like almost all of them, it's like I get so many messages that just warm my heart, and it makes
yeah,
me so happy.
yeah.
I had a return guest in my condo last week, and that was awesome. But then there are the ones out of nowhere. While it stresses me out, at the same time, I sort of appreciate like the learning from it. Like, oh, these people are out there, and I need to
Mhm,
learn, how to kind of deal with this. Yeah.
mhm. Interesting. Okay, next question. What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
I think that for me, what I would say is live below your means. Something that I had been taught growing up, basically. But it's what put me in the position to be able to invest fairly early in life, and then to be able to achieve financial independence fairly early
Mhm.
in life. So that's what I'd have to pick for that one.
Amazing. Amazing. And did you learn that from your parents?
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mom and dad. Thank you. All right. Last question. What's one thing and or person that you're grateful for today?
I guess just to kind of reiterate, and in this context, it's certainly the community of people that I've met, just generally in the short term rental space, especially the ladies over in the accelerator, and the accountability pods that I've been in. So grateful for how that's kind of helped me along in my journey.
Oh, well, being a part of your journey for all of us has been truly a delight. And it's so rewarding and refreshing to see you continue to soar. So keep on keeping on, girl.
Thank you so much, Stacey, and of course you're included when I say the accelerator. Got to be clear about that.
Well, again, thanks so much for being here and can't wait to see what's next.
Me neither. Thank you.